As the warmth of the sun tickles the constellation of goosebumps upon your arm, let yourself go into this moment as I welcome you warmly. Namaste. When I say love, what images come to your mind? Do you picture an old couple walking along the beach, hand in hand, 30, 40 years of beautiful marriage, a wonderful home, kids that they've raised? Or do you picture two lovers entrenched in the throes of lust and sexual intimacy? Or do you picture a mother and her child? The truth is that all of these are love. Love knows no boundaries. Love has no restrictions. Hello, fly. Love encompasses everything. Love doesn't reject anyone. Love doesn't seek anyone. Love is. Why do we find it difficult to find love? The barrier to love comes from our mind. And oftentimes, a barrier to that love through our mind is the perceived idea of how we think we should be loving. Love doesn't have a structure. Love doesn't require a format. You don't organize yourself to love. A mother doesn't have to have her house in order before she can love her child. I have a tattoo on my arm from a very dark time in my life where there was no light. I was unable to perceive any form of love. And this tattoo on my arm has the word suffer. And above that, a pained face of a girl with nails in her hands and a demon behind her. Now, in this point in my life, love was a far-off concept of a nice to know, a nice to have, it doesn't really exist, was how I lived, was my perception at that time, that love was a romantic novelty, I guess you could say, in that I had no, love just didn't exist in this place where I was. All that existed was darkness. And this darkness is not like how one might perceive it as I lived constantly dark. No, the sun was still shining, but I was unable to see it because I had veiled myself off. One, in order to protect myself from the hurts and the pains that had already been inflicted, that I was perceiving to be inflicted upon me, when in fact it was because of the amount of disgust I felt towards myself was so strong and so deeply embedded in me that the pain that I felt was the only thing that I could exude. Just like a trapped dog in the corner or a cat, when you prod it, it's going to fight back because it's cornered, it feels attacked. That was how I was. I felt as though I was in a corner and that everything that was coming at me, unless it was explicitly explained as, the person said, "Hey man, I'm your friend," I couldn't take in what was being given. Even if someone wanted to be my friend, and I had friends that would take me out and we'd go and do things, but I couldn't escape my mind. We would be driving along the lake, going around, like going hunting and in nature, but I would still be in my head on the verge of tears because I couldn't escape from the mindset of this girl who had hurt me, or this person who had hurt me. When was the last time that you truly felt free? And I don't mean free from obligations and free from responsibility. I mean just free. That freedom that you feel, say you go skinny dipping, if you've ever done that, or you're alone on a paddock and it's just you and the stars. And there's something deeply, deeply within you that feels, I wouldn't say almost satisfaction, but there's a freedom element to it. And one of my favorite quotes from a film is, "They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom." And I've said it with much less vigor than the man did in the film. But that is the truth, and that is exactly what is happening now, is our freedom has been whipped from underneath us. And there's a book from the 60s, 70s, regardless of when it is. I can't give you the exact date, so I won't tell you when it is. I believe it's by Aldous Huxley, and it might be from The Doors of Perception, though it may have been another book that he wrote, where he describes a modern prison as one without walls, and where the prisoners feel free, though in truth they're not. And though some of us may be unwilling to hear this and unable to accept or comprehend, that the truth is, the movies like The Matrix and others like that allude to this idea are in fact happening right now in our world. But because the films are told from a perspective of a fantastical elements of, cyber genetics and going into a whole nother realm and all these sorts of things, it's just far off enough that the people don't necessarily make the connection. But if you're paying attention, you make the connection, and you see that you're born, you're immediately forced upon this culture to conform. How young are we sending kids to school now? 4? 3? There's even preschool now. There's even people that take 2-month-old babies and look after them so the parents can work. Immediately, you're born and you are just thrown into, you have to be somebody. You don't have to be anybody. You don't have to be anything. There is nothing you have to do. I've said this before, and if I could do anything with my entire life, as Gandhi has said, my life is my message. And that message is freedom. When do you feel the most freedom? Often, what we find is we feel most freedom and the most free when we are either being loved or giving love. Do you feel constricted and stuck in a box when you're in the throes of beautiful intimacy with your partner? I can't imagine many of us are thinking of many other things than the beautiful act of what we're doing, making love. And that's freedom. There's an element to it. Freedom and love are in some sense the same together, because to truly love someone, you have to let them be free. And there's that great quote that says, if you love something, let it go. If it belongs to you, it comes back. And that is why freedom and love are never separate. And the two go hand in hand, because if you want to love something, you must also allow it to be free, which also means that you must be free. And why we can't love is because we're not free.